All right, Tom, thanks for joining us on the show here, man. It's good to connect with you. It's been a long time since you and I have been in the same gym.
Yeah, it's been a long time since you were roofing me straight down. So I don't know if I've missed you or not. But it's good to
That
see.
that was a long time ago.
I know, just it's burned in my brain. But no, yeah, it's good to see you and loved watching your career. Had a lot of fun watching you in Anaheim in the USA gym.
Thanks, man. Talk to us a little bit about your like coming up journey. Like, when did you start? You grew up in Southern California. When did you start getting into volleyball? And when did you know that love was like, hey, this is something that I want to make a big part of my life moving forward?
Yeah. So I grew up in San Fernando Valley. You were in Lancaster, right? Or
Yeah,
right?
I went to high school up in the high desert. Yeah, but we were in the valley a lot playing. So
Yeah. And this is kind of ahead of the game, but you played for Mike Bird, right?
yeah.
Who's a stud. And
Oh, great
he
guy.
Yeah, so I got in. I was playing a bunch of sports like everybody, like football, basketball, and stuff, and then really into basketball. And then I remember I wanted to quit volleyball. I started playing. I played in eighth grade. Started playing, and then kept playing through high school. Just wanted to do basketball. My dad made a deal with me. I think my sophomore year of high school that he would send me to the John Wooden basketball camp if I would do the Marv Dunphy volleyball camp. So I'm like, fine, and then just kind of stayed into it. But played through high school, and then in college in the summers I would play in those Cal State Northridge grass tournaments in the
Oh yeah.
Bakersfield, and Mike
Yeah.
Bird would just beat me down. Like, so him and his brother just I think
Yep.
I don't know if they lost the game in like 3 years, but they were. And then
They were
every
pretty
time,
special.
but it's like it's kind of easier when you can hate someone who's beating you. But he would like beat me, and then he'd be like, "Hey, like your cut shot's really getting better. Next time, think about this." It's just like it's like, all right, he's like a great person. He's kicking my butt. He's like, but
Oh man, imagine being in the gym with him every day, because
I
he
can't.
would. I mean, he would play with us every day in practice, and it was like the only thing our only goal was to try to beat him. That was it, and he would do anything so that we couldn't beat him, whether that be cheating. Obviously he was better than all of us until,
Right.
you know, I grew a lot and I started developing a lot, and there became a point when, obviously I became a really good player. And so,
Yeah.
and he was getting older. But what's funny is that, like, when you're in high school, and I didn't realize at that time, like, he was in his mid 20s, upper 20s maybe, and I was like,
It
oh,
seems
he's
so
so
old.
old. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh dude, he wasn't old, like he was right in his prime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah. It's
he's a
funny too
good
because
man
that
though.
was right. So I graduated college and then was playing on the beach. And then my best friend at the time was a guy named Travis Ferguson, really good player. You probably know
I
him. And then
remember. Yeah.
he was like playing with Kevin Hambley at Royal High School.
Yep.
And his dad, so it was kind of a golden age of high school coaches there. Bob Ferguson was coaching at Royal. That was my first coaching job, and just kind of really opened my eyes to coaching. But Mike was coaching there at was it Lancaster or Palmdale?
Well, our high school's name is Highland High School. They're
Highland,
in
that's right. Sorry.
Palmdale. Yeah.
But, I mean, there were so many great coaches like throughout, at Miracosta and Santa
Yeah.
Barbara, just like incredible coaches, incredible volleyball going on. So it was cool.
Yeah. When you were done, I mean, of course you went on, played in college, but when you were done playing, when was it that you knew that like coaching was definitely something that you wanted to like get into?
Yeah, I mean, I caught the bug like right away. I loved it right away. And then, yeah, of all things, I was juggling between that and being a writer. And
Oh, really?
yeah, I was just kind of like, I was like reviewing screenplays, and like I worked on a couple of books, just like, I mean, like $50 jobs, just, just like cobbling it. And yeah, it just took a while. Then I just remember I was just running a practice. I was coaching a high school girls team, LA Baptist High School, and I just remember coaching it. And I don't know, I've been struggling with it, not struggling, but kind of debating for a couple of years. And there's something about the drill, like it was just kind of flowing, and the girls were getting better. And I just remember
Yeah.
thinking, like, I love this, I love it. And then it took a number of years, but I never stopped coaching. Then I substitute taught for a while I was coaching club in high school, and just kind of grew. And then my first full time job, well, my first like real immersion into like how to coach was at LA Pierce College with a guy named Ken Stanley, Big
Oh yeah.
Daddy.
Big
And
Daddy.
a couple of your teammates came out of there,
Oh yeah. But
and
a couple of Highland guys went and played there.
yeah,
And it's got a story kind of, the
yeah,
program has had a lot of really good players come out of there. So
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever, I know there's been so many bad volleyball movies, but that would be a great one, just like that
Yeah,
factory that came out of Pearson.
totally.
But that really changed my life. And then my first full-time job was right after that. I was an assistant coach at USC. It
Yeah.
was 29,000 a year, no benefits, and I thought I made it. I was like so happy to be coaching full time. So yeah.
It was that with Fergie?
No, Fergie was after. Well, Fergie was before and after me. He's
Oh,
been
so
a
that was
coach.
still with McLaughlin?
It was with Turhan Douglas.
Oh, it's
He had taken
Turhan.
over.
Oh man.
Yeah, he had
Who's
taken over from
also
Howard.
an Antelope Valley guy. So
And a Pierce College guy.
yeah.
But yeah,
Turhan's a
then
good man.
Fergie was the assistant after me. I got the head
Right.
job at UC San Diego, and then yeah.
So you go from Pierce to USC to UCSD and then
LMU.
LMU. You coach a little bit with the U.S. national team, which we'll talk about. The Canadian national team. Now you're at Georgia. It's quite the journey. So I'm curious that, like, is there something you feel like people need to understand about the coaching lifestyle? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you think about yourself in that position and like kind of knowing that this is what you wanted to do, but not really maybe fully understanding exactly what the coaching world was going to look like for you moving forward.
I think it's a little bit. It's kind of a. I think it's like anything. I think I'm starting to sound old, but it's kind of a blessing and a curse the way it is now, because there's literally thousands of full-time jobs with benefits now for coaching, which
Yeah.
is a huge blessing. I wouldn't change it if I could.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, like I said, getting to the point where I had a full-time salary like was such a hard road of like so many hours. And I wouldn't have changed that for the world either, because it was really step by step. It was, high school to junior college to
Yeah.
assistant to and I just learned so much at each stop. And I think, the positive of how many jobs are available is like you really can make a living coaching like right away now. You can, which is great. I think the positive of the way that I did it was you can't skip the learning I got at each step. And so by the time I was coaching D1, it was like, 15 years of like experience at all different levels. And, it's kind of kept going that way. But that's one thing I feel fortunate for. I've spent so many hours at each age group, age level. And that's something I really value.
Yeah. Especially when you're able to kind of rub shoulders with, I mean, a lot of the legends, right? Like
Yeah.
Big Daddy, and then at that level, and then going on and coaching with, Turhan and Fergie, and then getting involved with some of the gold medal squared stuff and being around Karl and Marv, and like that seems like, and Karch as well. And like, that seems like, I mean, if you're going to pick a way to do it and get to a place where you are today, that didn't seem like a super bad way of doing it. Look, financially, it was probably a struggle for a while, but
no, I mean, I've been, there's so many things that you're just like lucky. And just the fact that I was in Southern California and Marv and Big Daddy and Karl and Jim McLaughlin and Ron Larson and Hugh and Karl, like just the fact they're all in that pool. I mean, that's just luck, like, and just being able to be exposed to all of them. So yeah, I'm just really lucky for all that too.
Yeah, I feel that way too, because I mean, look, I had a lot of places I could have gone to play in college, and going to BYU, I didn't really acknowledge it at the time, but now it's easy to acknowledge it. I mean, our coaching staff was Karl, Hugh, Troy Tanner, and Rob Browning. So it's like, those are all great volleyball minds. And it's no wonder we were able to develop so quickly as a team in that program, because you had all these guys that were so good at what they were doing. And like I said, I don't know if I appreciated it fully at that time, but I do now. So
I've wanted that too. Rob Brown is another guy I've learned a ton from. But I've wanted that too, because like I could not stand Karl when I was playing in college. I thought he was like, and I've always wondered like when you play for him. And then I spent the rest of my life trying to learn from him. So I was wondering, like, if you're playing him, is it kind of the same thing? Like, I was wondering what that experience was like.
He's an interesting guy to categorize or to characterize, because he is a little bit abrasive. He's definitely got his own style about him. But the thing about Karl is once you garner his respect, and he knows that you're going to show up every day and you're going to put in the work, then it's like he's this thing that you're just constantly trying to emulate. And he's got so many great pieces of wisdom that you're trying to pull from. And you once you layer, he's the onion, right? It's from Shrek, right? Once you peel off kind of the outside, which is a little bit kind of gross looking, you get in the middle and you're like, oh, this guy, I mean, he really cares about us. He cares about us as people. He cares about the program. He cares about volleyball, obviously, but it was a lot of fun learning from him.
Yeah, we all took his passing really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
he was an amazing man.
Yeah, he sure was.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about this because I didn't know the full story, and I'm sure that there's some insider info that you would be able to share because I just it's an interesting thing that I think you went through. So you took the role of adding the coaching duties of the Canadian women's national team while you're coaching at University of Georgia. Talk to me a little bit about like your decision process and making that decision, and like, eventually I understood that, like, look, with the pandemic and things that were going on, it just became kind of unruly for you, I would think. And you
Mhm.
weren't able to dedicate the amount of time that you probably and effort that you probably needed to both entities, is what I'm assuming. What else would you say there?
Yeah, I mean, well, at LMU, I was doing both. I was a head coach at LMU, and then I was assistant, during that Rio quad for the
Right.
women. And, just geographically, that made a lot of it possible. And, it
Right.
was like 45-minute, 30-minute drive. Karch was really understanding, LMU was really supportive. So I had experience doing both for a long period of time. Uh, so that gave me some confidence to do it. And then honestly, I just got really fired up when the opportunity came on. I just thought I
Sure.
thought I could make a difference. And so it was exciting. And, I just couldn't have enjoyed the experience more. So it was brutal, but it was just kind of the writing was on the wall with the pandemic. Our season is going into the spring now.
Right.
I mean, I would have had zero time to prepare for Canada. Like we got it. We got qualified for Nations League, so I didn't want to mess it. Like that needs to be done right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't been allowed to recruit in the college for a year, so I can't miss recruiting this year in the summer. So it was just very obvious that something was going to have to give, and just like obviously like you know George is my full time job, my family has to take priority. And if I would have done Canada this summer, Canada would have won, and those other two things would have lost. So it went from something I thought was good for everyone to was bad for everyone. And as soon as I knew our competitive season was going into the spring, I knew someone else had to do it for the summer.
You think without COVID that you'd been able to kind of managed it and gotten through the quad and still been
Yeah, I
able
was
to do
planning
both?
on it. I was
Yeah.
planning on it. I didn't think it was gonna be easy, but I was planning on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. What did you enjoy most during your time working with Karch and the national team? I know, you're probably still connected there, but like, going to Rio, winning bronze there. What did you enjoy the most? What did you learn?
Oh man, it's kind of like asking you. I mean, there's so many like lessons. I think just one thing that's popping out to me. I love being in that gym with like 30 elite players and seeing the difference in the levels, and then kind of demystifying that. Like, so, I think when at least for me, like when I'm growing up, I'm like, okay, Ryan Millar is insane, but this guy's insane too. Like, I know
Right.
Ryan Millar's better, but how they both seem incredible to me. And like, it's
Yeah.
just kind of like being in that gym and like, oh well, actually he always comes 5 minutes earlier, and this guy never misses film ever, and this guy always takes care of his body, and this guy sometimes takes care of his body, like, or this guy always wants to work on his weaknesses, this guy hates working on his weaknesses, like, and just like demystifying that process and seeing how it played out over years of time, because you can rationalize anything in a day, but when people are consistent like that and you see like how that aggregates and like what that forms, that was like a super fun process for me, because it just took the magic out of it. It's like, okay, there's just these behaviors going on that like you got to be really really good to get in the gym, but then there's these behaviors that aren't so hard to understand. They're hard to do but not so hard to understand, and that really starts separating people, and so that was cool. And then just going in all these high pressure environments and seeing people perform and learning what it takes and trying to help people along the way. And I love this probably sounds terrible, but I loved it. I feel like one major difference with an elite athlete is I'll listen to you because I really want to be good, but you better be right. Like I'm gonna give you I feel like I'm gonna give you one chance to show me you can
Yeah.
make it better. And then like, and if you can, great, I'm all in. But if not, like I'm going somewhere else because I don't have time. And
Yeah.
I don't feel any other levels like that. And I don't know why I liked it. It's just kind of a nice challenge. It just made it like, this is serious. Like, let's go. And I don't
That's
know.
a good point. That's a good point because as a player, you kind of are like, hey, I don't know if you have noticed, but I'm pretty good. And so you're telling me to change something that has got me to a level which I feel like I'm pretty good at.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's those high caliber athletes that are willing to go, okay, yeah, I could see why that could make a difference. I'm willing to give it a shot instead of just being, having the inflated ego and saying, no, I'm pretty good with who I am and what I can do,
Yeah, and
because it's about
I
learning, right? It's about continually getting better. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to go to the gym. It's like, well, if you've
yeah.
already learned everything, then there's no reason to be in practice right now and trying new things or working on different skills or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would ask you too, because like the other, yeah, I mean, there's so many things. The more I talk, the more things will pop up. But I love seeing how important every rep was to those athletes too, because, and this kind of is like what I want to ask you too, because I mean, again, it sounds obvious, but when you see it, you kind of feel it. I feel like elite athletes are really, really clear on how this rep is connecting to the competition, like,
Yeah.
and why it matters. Um, and I don't know if you told yourself this clearly, maybe you did or didn't, but I feel like athletes at your level too, like one of the reasons they're open if they think it's going to work is because they realize they're literally like 2 plays better than that other guy. It's like the margins are like so narrow. So like if you can
Yeah.
give me an edge, like I'm in,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something you had like consciously thought or just kind of resonated with or.
Totally. I think you're spot on, because at those levels, you're right. The margins are really thin, not only
Yeah.
from a development standpoint, but also from a success standpoint. I think a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people don't truly understand when you get to the Olympic level. Like, let's say you're in the Olympics. I mean, the difference between winning a gold medal and not winning a medal at all is not big. It's very small. It's like a
Sure.
play here or there. It's like
Yeah.
a lucky ball, a lucky touch here or there. If you look at the men in Rio, I mean, the difference between them competing for the gold compared to winning the bronze was, one serve that ended up having to be challenged that was in by like a
Yes.
millimeter.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
just like that's crazy to think about, but that's, I think, what you're talking about, because it's
Yeah.
those little incremental things. Because at that level, if you're not getting those little bit better, then as you're getting older, you've got young guys that are trying to come in and they've got more energy, and maybe they jump
Mhm.
higher and they hit
Yeah.
harder, and you know what I mean, and they want it, and you're like, well, as a kind of a tenured player, I got to figure out how I'm going to keep getting better, else these guys are just going to pass me
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that stuff because we're just talking about being at the very edge of your limits, and it's really exciting to be in an environment like that. And if you feel like you can help, it's just the best. I mean,
Yeah,
you really
that's
feel like
cool.
you're. Yeah. So.
Huh. Um, you kind of answered this a little bit, but one of the questions that I had for you is like, I mean, and if you already answered it, that's cool, but you've seen a lot of players in your coaching days, at a lot of different levels. So in your eyes, apart from what you just talked about, what separates the good players? Because there's a lot of good players. What separates the good players from the really great players?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna kind of wing this a little bit, but I always feel like there's like this first separator the moment they come in the gym, and it's like I'm a 4-time All-American and she's a 4-time All-American. Like, let's go. And then there's like, I'm a 4-time All-American. She's a 4-time, like, I'm in trouble. Like, just that initial like reaction to competition, like, separates people so fast.
Yeah.
And even like some people is like, you should be in trouble, but you don't think you are. It's such an advantage, like
Right. This blind confidence.
yeah, like I would opt for that than getting scared. Like I mean, a little fear is normal, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
So I think like that's a first separator. And then I think there comes a moment for almost everyone where it's like, okay, it's kind of what you said. I get it. You've reached a high level of success. You're clearly good at this, but it's not good enough, like to get to a gold medal. And and if it's not your hitting, then it's your blocking. If it's not your blocking, it's your
Right.
serving. It's like right, and like that right there is I think that's a moment of truth for a lot of athletes too, because you're asking for some like real change that's going to take significant work, and there's just like, can you handle that?
Right.
Do you have a learning process that you can rely on, or are you willing to try to find one, or is it just this big threat kind of punishment thing? I feel like that separates a lot of people too.
Hmm.
And then and then maybe I'm sure there's more, but then another third big one is just that, I mean, just the emotional gut punch of either losing a tournament or not making a roster. I mean, like when you are that good and you've invested that much, and it's just ripping your heart out, like, and it's like,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people in those gym, it's like, definitely people absolutely get cut. That's some people, but there's a lot of people that, like, they just decide it's over because it's just, and you have to like be able to endure and get yourself up. And
Yeah.
there's one player, if I said her name, you would know her, and she was asking me for advice, and I said, like, hey, there's gonna be a moment with this quad where you're gonna feel like you're on top of the world and you've made it. You haven't. And then there's gonna be a time where you get cut and you think the world's over. It's not. Like, and I just seen like the people that can ride that. I think that's another big separator too. And then I think the last thing is just developing habits out of that, where like I can
Yeah.
continually get better despite all this. But man, I mean, you lived it. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with a lot of what you just talked about. I think another thing that a lot of people, at least I put a lot of value in, and when I think of the greats, is I
Mm-hmm.
think about sustained greatness over time. Because like I feel like some people can be really good for a short period of time, but being able to sustain that greatness over a long period of time, it to me is what greatly separates the really good players from the really great ones. Because you can be really good for a quad or a couple years, but to
Mm-hmm.
see guys go through multiple phases of multiple quads and be successful, whether it be at the Olympic level, professional level, whatever it looks like, keeping their body right, keeping their mind tight,
Yeah.
it's to me that's what is kind of motivating to me. When I was a player, I was just thinking, man, can I continue to be good over a long period of time? And that's what's going to differentiate me between and potentially other guys that want my spot.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's massive. And
Yeah.
you just can't, I don't think you can talk about that stuff enough, because it's one of those things like people say it and you hear it, but like to understand it and live it is just a different deal.
I've been having a lot of discussions with other women's coaches around the evolution of the women's game right now, and I think it's interesting and it's exciting how the general effectiveness of how to play volleyball the best way, whether it's men's or women's, almost is coming to a point where it doesn't matter anymore. It's just effective volleyball, and it's kind of merging into a more universal system of effectiveness. Faster to the outside, more right side dependency in the women's game, like
Mm-hmm.
a bick or faster bick. Are you seeing that too? And
Oh,
as and you've got experience coaching men and women. I asked this to Kevin Hambley too. I said, when you go in to coach a women's team now, would you coach them any differently than you would coach a men's team? And I would be curious at your answer of that as well.
uh, I mean, there's some tweaks I would do differently, but to like the bigger answer, I think this is where Karl doesn't get enough credit. I think Karl has like completely changed the game. Like
Mm,
I think he changed the game in the men's world. I think the men's world in general is ahead of the women's world, and the women's world is like catching up now. And I think all you can
yeah,
kind of tie all that to Karl a lot, a lot of it. Um, well, I mean, even like I think there's countries who've never even heard of Karl that are doing things that he was bringing in, like 25 years ago.
yeah,
Um, I totally agree with you. But I think also because women can do anything men can do. Men are just a little more physical.
right.
So I think that physicality just kind of keeps a lot of the innovations ahead of the men's game, and the women's game is learning. Now, for sure, there's some things women do or vice versa, but on the whole, I feel like that's kind of how it works. So it's like, in general, I totally agree. The games are closer than they've ever been. I think there's some setting things that men do that might be a little bit behind in the women's game, like catching up.
Mm,
The speed of the offense is still definitely faster in the men's game,
yeah,
but for sure the gap is narrowing. The big thing, I know some men dabble in the slide, but that's obviously a skill that's been primarily the women. But
right.
there's no doubt the gap is shrinking, and I think because so many of the women's national team coaches for the USA, it's been like this knee-jerk philosophy from like one coach to the other.
Right.
Uh, it doesn't matter if you think it's right or wrong. It's just like that this coach is clearly different than this coach, right?
Right.
And I don't think that's the best thing, but
And you generally don't see that as much on the men's side. So as you go
no,
through multiple quads and potentially there's a coaching change, generally in the men's game, the system, the overarching system in the men's game is very similar.
that's really important. That's really important.
Whereas the women's game could be a little bit more diverse.
But I think that's why you're seeing the gap narrows, because like
Right.
once here and then Karch fall, now there's been like 12 years of some
Yeah.
consistency, and obviously the senior national team in every country has so much gravity on the rest of the country, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's part of why you're seeing like that start to happen. Yeah.
I would assume that that's going to equate into even more further success for the women's team. We have such an abundance of talent on the women's side in the U.S. I think if we can create that cohesive system and we can merge it and play the volleyball the most effective way, and whatever that looks like, being able to kind of capture all of the talent we have that talent play the right system. To me, there's no reason why we can't consistently just be the best.
For sure. I mean, it's going to happen at some point, and I think if anything, I think we have like an embarrassment of riches of players in our
Yeah.
country. And that's amazing. That's always going to keep us elite, as long as we keep having these great coaches.
Right.
But I think the challenge with that, a team is like this, and our gym sometimes is like this, right?
Right.
And then somehow we have to figure out a way to get like this, and so I think that might be the next hurdle to figure out. But eventually, it's going to happen for sure.
You've been around the coaching game a long time. As you think about the situation you're in now at Georgia, what do you feel like is the most underdeveloped yet critical skill that you're still seeing, women starting to get better and better at?
Well, I mean, I think the hardest position to transfer is the libero.
Mm.
Internationally, I just think the ball is so much harder to pass than the college ball that we use is, and the servers are so much better with a harder ball to pass. So it's really hard. And just coaching Canada too, we really felt it. And it's really hard to make up that skill. Like once you got into that level, I mean, there's years of development that need to be caught up. So I think that. Karch has a way better idea than me, but I think in terms of positions, that's always the challenge. Is like, Kayla Vanworth was so valuable because like she's her, and who
Right.
else is it's I think trying to fill that position consistently is that might be one of the hardest challenges. There's obviously like, it's faster, it's more powerful, and that takes a little bit of time, but I feel like there's lots of examples of people who have acclimated within like, one summer, to that speed, but the passing that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to change in the sport because I mean that's like one of the first things you hear when you start playing is how important the pass is, and you're like, well, I don't care, I just want to go hit, and it's like, no, it kind of all starts by being really good passing, and so
I mean,
I
your
think you're right.
gold team, that's right there. I mean, it was the best service team in the world, right? I mean, so
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, we had Rich, Riley, Reed.
Yep.
I mean, all three of those guys were world class, if not the best tandem trio at that time at passing. So. So talk to me a little bit about what you're experiencing at Georgia. How is it different than what you've experienced at other places? Are how's your family adjusting? Are you liking it?
Yeah, no, we love it. It's a great school. It really came. It was kind of right on the cusp of when I thought volleyball would start taking off in the SEC, and I knew there was just such a amazing sports culture like in this conference, and you really feel like this school means a lot to the entire state. Like you really feel like you're a part of something bigger. So like I just thought there was a big opportunity. And then it's also those between Loyola Marymount and Georgia and Canada. It's kind of all three of those were like massive rebuild jobs. So it was kind of a similar situation in a different context, right? So
Right.
there's a lot of learning, and then also things I could kind of bring with me from past experiences.
That's cool. All right, I want to ask you just some they're kind of like rapid fire questions. The first one's probably going to require you to think a little bit more, but I want you to name your all-time women's college team. Any era, everyone is at the top of their game. What 7 players would you just love to coach?
Well, I'm going to be totally biased because I have to go with what I saw, just because like the emotional connection.
That's fine. There's always some level of subjectivity.
Mick Haley had back-to-back national champions at USC. It was that first team, I think, was the unbeatable one. I was an assistant for the men there, and I just loved watching them dominate. So I think just because I saw it and I was seeing these girls, and our men's team was so bad, so they kind of just gave me some relief just to watch them. And I loved going into Mick's like gym and into his office and picking his brain during that time. And so I'd have to pick that team for some, like they were legit, plus some emotional reasons.
Wow. Okay. What if you had to mix players up?
Oh, mix players up?
Yeah. Like you get to pick your team. I mean, you can pick players from that team, but I'm just saying, like, I'm giving you free reign.
Whew.
Yeah, I know. This one always requires a little bit more thought.
Are you gonna edit this? Because I'm gonna have to take a minute.
You're gonna have to think about it. Well, let's start with your outsides. Who are your 2 outsides?
I'm just overwhelmed by how all time.
There's so many. I know.
Oh, okay, Logan Tom for sure.
Okay, Logan's out there. Yeah.
And then I think I might go with Jordan Larson.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, you can't go wrong with Logan and Jordan. They're both at their prime too, so it's like
I feel like Kelsey Ross kill me right now, so I'm going to put her right off the bench in case Jordan screws up.
Okay.
I mentioned that.
Who are your middles?
Luke.
Yeah, she's been a pretty constant when I've asked other people. It's an obvious choice. She's spectacular.
Yeah. Again, I'm biased. I'm not going. I don't know if I'm going super. Oh, Danny Scott probably be the
Oh yeah,
inner
yeah,
prime. Yeah.
yeah. She's done some pretty special things in the sport. Like she's
Five-time Olympian. Oh my God.
incredible. Her
Incredible.
talk about sustained excellence.
Oh.
She's the epitome of sustained excellence.
Okay, cool story about her. So her last quad is when I was helping out with Hugh,
Yeah.
and I started coaching her a little bit, and she's just like a sponge, right? And I'm well aware who this person is, and I'm well aware who I am, right? And I think like a month into, I'm like, Danny, I just got to say, like, you are arguably the greatest women's player of all time, and you're like hanging on every word I say. And she's like, well, how do you think I stayed around so long? I was like,
what
wow,
a great answer, man.
that's amazing. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's cool. How about your setter? The setter is going to be tough because you only get one, and there's a lot of really good setters.
I was the setter coach, so I'm gonna go with Alicia Glass.
Alicia she's good. She's
solid.
solid.
That era too, like the setters we had there. I mean, now her name's Molly Taylor, and Courtney and Carly Lloyd. It was just incredible setters. That was a great. But yeah, I'll go with Alicia.
Okay, right side.
Right side. I think Destiny was the most dominant, right?
Yeah, she was pretty tough to stop.
Yeah.
And libero.
Whew. Outside of Stacy Sikora, Nicole Davis, and Caleb Anworth, I don't know if I know many liberos. That's kind of embarrassing.
All three of those are pretty good. So
they're all really good. I'll go with Kayla.
Yeah.
I thought she was clearly the best passer in the world. Yeah,
that's a good team, man. You passed the test.
It's more of a new age team, except for Danny and Logan. So.
You wouldn't even have to get off the bench at all ever against that team. You just sit back and be like, "All right, guys, go figure it out."
That's my goal as a coach, by the way, is
just sit down the whole time.
Well, I mean, that seems pretty cool. That's
yeah,
that kind of confidence.
What's something that a lot of people don't know about you? You have any like hidden talents or anything?
No.
Can you like play any instruments really well, or like juggle or anything?
I used to play guitar okay. Now I'm just like good, solid, well below average player,
Yeah. Like a couple songs.
Yeah, if it's like GDC, I'll kill it. But if it's, it's I don't know. I got some like stories that are like funny and stuff, but I don't know if there's anything about me that's like really, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the trait you most dislike about yourself?
Oh, geez. I think for sure. I mean, we talked before about like just weakness being strength. I mean, I just get so in my world of what I'm trying to do that I just block people out, or or start driving too hard, or just really like separate myself from the group when I need to like integrate myself. And so that's been a massive blind spot I'm always working on. I feel like I have the same goal every year. Like no matter how much better I get at it, I still need to keep working on it. So.
How about the trait you most dislike in others? Anything super bother you?
I think I don't hate this. It just irritates me. Just like lack of curiosity. Like I can't stand. Like when it's like, yeah. You're like, you have no idea. Yeah. So that like irritates. I don't know if I hate that. That like irritates me. I think hate. I just have a big problem with lack of respect towards people. Like especially if it's someone you don't need to be respectful and you aren't. I can't stand that. Like that.
Yeah.
That'll put that person in another category for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. Have you had any near-death experiences?
Oh my God. Okay. So I don't know if I guess I wasn't technically close to dying, but it felt like it. I was coaching at Pierce College, and it's just bare bones. We don't have anything. So we don't have any towels for the net, and the ref is like all over me, and Big Daddy's all over me. So I run into our office, and there's nothing except like this old like car rag, right? And we need one for each side. So I don't know why, but for some reason there's a screwdriver there. I don't know why. So I put the screwdriver in the middle, and I try to rip it, and I pull so hard the screwdriver comes into my breastplate like full force.
Whoa.
Yeah, and bounces off, and like somehow it didn't puncture it, but I got like this welt kind of throbbing, and I just stood there for a minute like this could have been it.
How far did it go in?
It bounced off.
Oh, you didn't even go all the way. You didn't go in.
I went like it was 100% strength because I was trying to pull it. It just like, and I think I was just lucky. I think I was lucky as a Phillips head. I mean, I was.
Oh my gosh. You, whenever you stab things from now on, it's like away from your body. You're never like coming right at you.
It was kind of surreal to be on the bench in 5 minutes coaching a game. Like I almost died. It was
You
like,
almost, and nobody knows, and you don't
nobody.
want to tell anyone because you would feel ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, are you an idiot? How do you explain
That's
that?
funny. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh man. This would be an interesting. If you never got in, oh, you might have already answered this. If you never got into volleyball, what would you be doing right now? You think?
Yeah,
Writing
like,
screenplays.
right. Well, I've always like I love creative nonfiction. Like my dream, like if I retired, to be like travel around like a minor league baseball team or a basketball team and write a book about it, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that'd be that. I don't know if that's what I'd be doing, but that sounds pretty cool.
You got the Pierce story, man. You can
Exactly.
write
Yeah.
it
Maybe I'll
up.
write about Big Daddy. Yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome.
That would be cool. Dream vacation. Money's no object. Where are you going?
Oh man, my family, we talk a lot about going to Italy. I've
Yeah.
actually I've not been to Italy. Like,
Oh, you got some must go.
yeah, so we kind of want to spend a month there. I think that'd be if we go anywhere, we'd probably go there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Last meal on earth, and you know it's your last meal. What are you having?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd go like I think I'd go surf and turf, like a fillet and lobster
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, just I know
Nice.
that's a pretty easy answer. But yeah, I think I would go with that.
Okay. That's a good one. That's about where I'm at too.
Yeah, feel better.
Name a movie or a TV show, since nobody goes to movies anymore. That where you teared up.
Oh, yeah. There was one I teared up a little bit. There's one one that really got me. What was it? Oh man, I just saw it.
Is it a show?
I think it was a show. And
You
oh
guys
yeah, yeah. Oh, you know, this is it's actually. Have you seen that show Cobra Kai?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh
so
yeah.
those first two seasons are like
Love Cobra Kai. It's a great show.
yeah, those first two seasons are just like fun and light. Then it gets dark in the third season, and then
yeah.
yeah, like
Because the kid's paralyzed and he's like he has to get back, you know.
and it comes out of nowhere though. It's like how this got heavy, you know. Like
Yeah.
and then so like I think those last two episodes got me a little bit.
Yeah. And then Daniel goes back to Okinawa, and there's some history there, and
Oh, that show. Okay, I'm glad you're with me on this one.
that's a great show. So you guys watch Netflix then?
Yeah, I watch Netflix.
There's a show called Afterlife. It's with
Haven't
Ricky
heard of
Gervais.
Really good.
It's like a really interesting blend of Ricky Gervais, who's like a comedic genius. So it's
Yeah.
super funny, but also really heavy.
Okay.
And only he can kind of mix the two, and it'll get you.
right.
It's a pretty
I'll check it out.
powerful show. Check it out.
We need a show, so that's perfect.
Okay, this is the last one, then I'll let you get out of here. Give me one word that you hope people would remember you by.
Oh man, that is a great question. I think the word committed is kind of circling around, so I'll go with that right now.
Yeah, that's a good one. When's your guys' next match?
So yeah, we were gonna play last weekend for our first matches of the spring, and then we got
postponed.
COVID. Yeah, so we're playing Thursday and Friday here against Arkansas,
Cool.
and then that'll be the
Wait,
start
is
of our
that,
spring
is that
season.
still Jay Watson?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah. He'd be a good guy to get on the show for sure.
Yeah. I got to get him on too. We go way back, me and Jason. So
Yeah, he makes coaching a lot better for sure. He's a stud.
oh, he's a good dude. Well, I wish you guys luck,
Oh.
man. Hopefully nothing happens between now and Thursday, and that you guys can actually get going. You know.
We got our last weekly test this morning, so hopefully we're all clear. We'll find out tomorrow morning.
Man, I bet your
Yeah.
girls are just like chomping at the bit. I mean, you are too, but your girls probably want to get out there and compete.
Yeah, they were super ticked off about last weekend, so they're ready to go for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Wish you guys luck, man. Thanks for taking time. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me on. It's great seeing you.
No worries, man. Take care.
All right, see ya.
Bye.